If I was to give you a tour of this fish room right now, you would look at this tank and you would say, John, this is a disgrace. You should be ashamed of yourself. And you know what? You'd be right. I don't typically like being full of excuses when things go wrong. However, I think I've got some pretty good excuses for the condition of this tank. We just moved. We moved all these tanks. We moved our business. We're getting settled in. It's been a long couple of months. This tank has definitely got neglected from an appearance standpoint. The fish are fine. They're happy. They're thrilled. But the tank looks terrible. Today, I'm going to change that. It's going to start out with doing a major repair that has needed to be done since the day we moved, and that is one of the drain hoses in the back is got a hole in it, which I temporarily fixed with some Flex Seal, but I have gone and bought some of this pond pump. This is not a pump. This is a hose. Pond hose. I bought this from Lowe's. It's not the exact same material that Custom Aquariums used for the drain on this, but it'll work. It's close enough and it's nice and flexible. So that's the first thing I'm gonna do. Then I'm gonna do a humongous water change, and while I'm doing a water change, I'm gonna do something that I really should have done in this tank from the very beginning, and that is put in a substrate. You can see in here, the fish are practically making their own substrate in here, which is nasty and embarrassing. So I'm gonna get that corrected, and I'm gonna show you that whole process. And then once I get the substrate in here, I'm gonna rescape it. I'm gonna actually do a scape in this tank, which is something I've never done. It's not gonna be anything that would make George Farmer proud, but it's gonna look a whole lot better than it does right now. I'm also gonna be making some adjustments to the lids and stuff like that. I got a lot to do. Let's just get going. All right, first things first, I do have a bit of bad news. For whatever reason, the footage that we got of me making the repair to the hose on the back of the tank, it didn't work. I don't know. I don't know what happened, if we just forgot to push record or what. I don't know. But you know what? It's not a big deal because it wasn't really much to show anyway. There was a hose in the back. It had a leak in it. I replaced the hose. Job's done. The next thing that had to be done was quite obviously a water change. My fish in this tank are slobs. They have giant poops. They make a mess everywhere, and I didn't want to just cover all of that up. I wanted to get it out. I vacuumed this tank out every week or so, and every single week you see it is this bad. It's horrible, but you know what? I love the fish. I'm not getting rid of them, so I got to clean up after them. But thankfully, with this next step in the project, it's going to help cover it up a little bit. So for the substrate for this tank, there are so many options out there. I decided to go with one that is, be honest, going the cheap route, and that's to use play sand. I went to Walmart. I bought 15 bags of play sand. It's super cheap. I think it was like $4 a bag, maybe $6. I don't know. It's very cheap. However, it's not the easiest product to work with because it's not meant to be put in aquariums. Play sand is very dirty. Almost all sand is dirty, but play sand is the worst. It's basically like a bag full of dirt with a little bit of sand in there. So in order to get rid of that, I had to clean this out real good. And I did it the same way you would clean really any substrate. I put it in a bucket and then ran the hose through it and just let it run. Now, what I started out with was 2 bags in the black bin there, black tote, whatever you want to call it. And that just didn't work that well. It was too much and it was too hard to handle. So I ended up getting a system where I would do 1 bag at a time in a 5-gallon bucket. It took longer because you're only doing 1 bag at a time, but it worked way, way better and it got the sand much cleaner. It's a matter of putting the sand in the bucket, running the hose in, and just stirring it up constantly. And then what I would do is I would leave the hose in it and just let it run and angle the bucket a little bit. In fact, I had a little bit of sand fall out, and so I just used that to kind of have the bucket sit at an angle and just let the hose run to where it overflows. And after a while, it ends up getting clear. But let me just tell you, when it comes to this play sand, you can never clean it enough. It's not possible. You can clean it over and over and over and over again, and it's still going to end up being really dirty. I don't know. I don't know if it's possible to get it completely spotless. I certainly tried, but you will see as we move on with this that, well, it didn't work out all that well, but it still ended up looking good. But anyway, clean it as much as you have the patience for, and understand that the more you clean it, the less of a headache you're going to have waiting for the tank to clear up. So once each bag was clear, I would bring it in and start spreading it out in the tank. And I got to be honest with you, I didn't really find the best way of doing this. I used that little fish carrier that we had from when we had our store, and I would just fill it up and then just lay it in as gently as possible. But no matter how gently you put it down, it still ends up creating a huge cloud. I really don't think there's anything you can do about it, because not only is the sand dirty, but there's also a ton of very, very fine particles that they're just not going to clean out. They have to settle down. So I took my time and I did it as slow as possible, but I don't think it's possible to do it slow enough. And after a while, I just kind of gave up on trying to do it cleanly. I just wanted to get it in there. And well, what do you think? Looks good, doesn't it?
It's like a mud puddle.
Yeah. This is what your tank looks like after hours of cleaning sand and then putting the sand in. It started out okay. I was able to put it in slow enough, but after a while, you're just like, whatever, and you put it in. So it's going to be cloudy like this for probably a couple of days. I got the filter back running again. It's not hurting the fish at all. So I'm just going to be patient. I'm going to wait for it to clear up, and then I'll come back to talk to you about a few more other things with this tank. Here we are, day 5. I did the project on Saturday and it is now Thursday. So it's been 5 days. You can see it's cleared up substantially. It's not 100%, but it looks way, way better. But you can also see that there's been another big change, and that is with the lighting. I had to change out the lights that are on here, and it breaks my heart to do that because I was using the Luma lights on here. I don't think it's a product that's even available to the public yet, but I know the folks over there at Reef Bright and Lumalight, they sent me those lights, and I gotta be honest, they are my favorite aquarium light in the whole hobby. I absolutely love them. But that light, the frequency of those LEDs does not cooperate with my camera. So that's why you saw the flickering or the rolling lines. I love the way the lights look in person, but I just can't take the way they look on camera. It's not really anybody's fault. It's just this equipment not cooperating with this equipment. So had to switch those lights out. That's why the colors look very different than what they were before. But we're not here to talk about lights. We're here to talk about the aquarium itself. The fish are absolutely loving this. The Oscars are already moving the sand around. The bikers are laying around in the sand. It is amazing. But this tank still is not done. I'm gonna add some dragonstone and a couple more pieces of driftwood. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And then hopefully, a couple more days, this thing will be nice and clear. Okay, it's not just a couple more days. This is day 9. So it's been a few more days since that last clip. The tank did clear up quite a bit more, looked almost perfect, but not 100% there yet. But that's okay, because it was time to do my first water change, routine water change and glass cleanup and all of that. And while I did that, I also added the extra pieces to the aquascape. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in the closing, but nothing elaborate, nothing special, just putting in a few things to give it a little bit more activity in there. Not activity, but something more to look at, and just have it not be quite so barren anymore. I love the just wide open tank look, but you know what? Our tastes change after a while, and wanted to add a little more to this. I don't know. I'm happy with the way it looks. All right, full transparency. It's been about 11 days since I put the sand in there. And I'm gonna be honest, it's still got a bit of a haze to the water. It's very minor. I don't know how well it's showing up in camera, but it's there. I think it's gonna take a little while longer. Couple more water changes, let everything settle down, and it's gonna be perfectly fine. It's one of the costs of using play sand. I mean, if you're going to use the sands that are actually made specifically for aquariums, you're not going to have nearly as much of a problem as we have here, but we went the cheap route, and that comes at a cost. And the cost is you're going to have to battle the haziness of the water for a little while. But is it worth it when you consider the cost savings? I think it is. And I think it looks really, really good. Mixing a little bit of that pea gravel and river stone and all that kind of stuff in there definitely made it look more real, if that makes sense, because obviously it is real, but you know what I'm saying. Makes it look more like an actual river would look. So I don't know, at least I think it does anyway. Overall, I'm very, very happy with it. It is a challenge, and the tank looked terrible for a few days, but you know what? In the end, I think it's worth it. And if there's one thing that I've learned in my 48 years, it's that patience is the key. And if you have the patience to do this slowly, slower than I did, and then you won't get it all mixed up, and then you have the patience to just wait for it to settle down, I think you're going to be real happy with this. Would I recommend this to somebody for their first aquarium? Probably not, because you'd be like, I didn't get an aquarium for this. I want to be able to see my fish. But if you're somebody that has multiple aquariums and you're trying to set something up and you want to do it on the cheap, this is a good way to go. I think in all, I think it cost me like $24 for the sand. The gravel was a little bit more, but let me tell you something. I bought 15 bags. I ended up using like 5. So I bought way more than I needed. Lesson learned. But the good thing is, sand never goes bad. So if I need more for another project down the road, I can certainly do that. So from a cost perspective, I think it's definitely worth it. And for an appearance perspective, because I think it looks really good. It looks really natural, and it should, because it is a natural product, but you know what I'm saying. So yeah, overall, I'm happy with it. As far as the scape of the tank goes, I guess I'm happy with that too. The struggle is I wanted to leave as much open area as I could for the bikers, while also making an aquascape that the Oscars aren't going to tear up. I mean, they're known for that. Oscars are interior decorators, and so whatever you do in there, they're going to tell you, hey, you know, this is our space. We're going to do with it what we want. And you can do these elaborate, beautiful aquascapes, and they'll just tear them all up. So had to keep that in mind while also trying to leave as much open area as possible for the bikers to be able to lay down. So it's better, way better than it was before when we just had the piece of wood there in the center. So I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the whole project overall. Maybe down the road, you'll be able to see it again and it'll be crystal clear. But for now, I'm happy with it just the way it is. I hope you were able to get something from this video, what it's going to be like if you choose to use the cheap play sand in your aquarium. You're going to have the same battle that I did. Maybe if you take your time a little bit more than me and you clean it out a little bit more than I did, even though I spent a lot of time cleaning it out, maybe you'll have a little better experience, but you know, it is what it is. I thought I was taking my time, but hope you were able to get something out of it. And now you know what you can look forward to if you are going to do this yourself. So anyway, this project was a whole lot of fun to do. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.